The following is a review for critical, analytical, and educational purposes. It is protected under Article 17 and 107 of the United States Fair Use Code. This is not an infringement on copyright. Please enjoy the review.
So, last time we took a look at the very first Tom Baker story, and I came to the conclusion that it was a false start for the new era of the Doctor. Well, today's story is the story where Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes took over and decided to cut the Doctor off completely from Earth. So, partially because of this and to save them money, they decided to create a story arc going over 5 stories concerning the Doctor, Sarah Jane, and Harry Sullivan dealing with the events stemming from their impact on the Nerva Beacon. I normally wouldn't cover whole story arcs in something like this, but every story except one is really important to the change of Doctor Who for one reason or another, so I just decided to cover it all. The arc began with a story coming about because the author of Marco Polo, The Essex and the Massive Curve, John Lucarotti, sent in a script with a good premise that Robert Holmes pretty much rewrote into a story resembling the movie Alien, except this was 1975, 4 years earlier to be a homage, so pretty much Ridley stole the idea of Alien from here. So today we're taking a look at the first Hinchcliffe Holmes story and the beginning of the story arc with The Ark in Space. Let's begin with part 1. After the opening titles, which were for some reason tinted green for part 1, I don't know, they wanted to experience, we open in space on a shot of the Nerva Beacon. Inside, a creature makes its way towards a sleeping human, to which it gets inside of. Time passes enough for all the power to go out, and the TARDIS eventually materializes. Out steps the Doctor, Sarah Jane Smith, and Harry Sullivan, fresh off after Robot. Or after a couple of comics, depending on what you count as canon. The Doctor has gotten the landing wrong, as they were supposed to be on the moon. But it wasn't the Doctor's fault this time. See, Harry was fooling around with the controls, so they got off course. They realize the air is running out, and gravity for some reason seems to be normal. The Doctor finds a light switch and turns on the air supply. He and Harry both look at the controls while Sarah Jane wanders off into another room. The Doctor estimates the technology was created in the early 30th century, but they're much later in the future. Sarah Jane realizes that the door closed behind her and there isn't any air on in there, so the Doctor realizes she's missing and notices the door is controlled by a remote, which Harry pressed. But there are a lot of buttons, and Harry can't remember which one he pulled to open the door, but he eventually gets the right one. They pick Sarah Jane up while the Doctor works on controls, which none of them are really functioning. Not even the oxygen supply, which he turned on earlier, so he starts messing around with the wiring. See, the oxygen cables have been cut, so he uses his sonic screwdriver to get them to reconnect the circuit. The oxygen boots up just in time, and they get Sarah Jane on the couch near the oxygen vent. The Doctor says that there's a mystery here, and the interesting question is why the power will be cut. They open the door and leave Sarah Jane inside to rest peacefully. Outside, down descends the defense mechanism, which shoots at the Doctor and Harry, while Sarah Jane gets teleported away. The Doctor and Harry get trapped themselves under the table, while Sarah Jane wakes up on another couch in a different room and is put into cryostasis. The Doctor and Harry are testing the guard, and they scoot their little table to the other side of the room. The Doctor decides to try to throw a scarf at it to switch, and Harry tries with a cricket ball. They both get shot down, so the Doctor tells Harry to distract it with his shoe, and to just hope to God that it isn't double-barreled. Luckily, it isn't double-barreled, so the guard is disabled. They call to Sarah Jane, who has already been put in cryostasis. The Doctor realizes that the couch was a transporter to somewhere else in the space station. All they have to do is find her, so they walk down the hallways. A PVA voice tells them to keep out of an area because it's quarantined when Harry notices something move. The doctor tells them that it was a trick of the light, and they see a trail left by some sort of a gastropod. They keep moving into a decontamination chamber. On the other side, they find a cryogenic receptory and a complete record of the human race. They have no idea what it could be for, and Harry suggests it may be a survival kit of some sort. The doctor then asks, where would the people be? So they go into the next room, which is a massive set lined with body pods lined on the walls. They're even connecting rooms, and the doctor gives this famous speech on how Homo sapiens are amazing. Well, I don't like the speech as it's been copied so much in the new series. It is a great moment that is now, again, overused way too much in the modern series. Harry has been checking the life signs, and the doctor explains the principle of cryogenics to him. They go to find Sarah Jane and then leave so not to interfere with any sort of history. Harry notices the trail leading to an empty casket. He thinks it may be a mold, but the doctor wants to investigate, as usual. They find Sarah Jane asleep in the chamber, so Harry runs to open some medical cabinets. But when he opens one, an alien bug falls out. This leads into part 2, where Harry, being a doctor, begins to examine the creature. The doctor says, leave it for later, and they find the emergency medical kit, hoping to find something that would help Sarah. Harry notices that one of the people is moving. They open her pod and give her the medical kit. She takes an instrument out and revives herself with it. She stands looking at the new surroundings, and she notices the doctor and Harry, and doesn't buy that they're space travelers. She introduces herself as Vira, first-class medtech. The doctor takes her over to Sarah Jane, and Vira realizes that Sarah Jane wasn't among the chosen. She explains that it may be dangerous to wake her up by this point, and asks if she's of value. The doctor, of course, says, of course she is, and Harry is actually abhorred that she would say a human being wouldn't be of value. Vira doesn't really understand some of the things the Doctor and Harry are saying, and moves on to the Prime Unit, or leader. He's called Noah, but his real name is Lazar! And Harry makes the connection, to Noah's Ark, obviously. She explains that the Earth's surface was destroyed by solar flares, and the Doctor tells her that, well, they've overslept for about 5,000 years. He takes her over to the creature, and they realize that it came here with some sort of a purpose. We cut to a sort of a green caterpillar thing wriggling around in the circuitry. It uses an appendage to open a hatch, because it has those now. Meanwhile, Vira's waking up Noah, and there's a fault. The doctor goes off to fix it. The power is soon fixed, and Harry is called out. The doctor explains that the fault is at the main solar stack, and he goes off to take a look. Noah wakes up from his long sleep and is outraged when he sees Harry, and Vira explains that they claim to be travelers in space. Sarah Jane has also started to be revived, and Harry thinks she might be all right. Then Noah runs after the doctor in what I can only call jealous rage. The doctor has made it into the solar stacks, where he finds the slime trail from earlier. Sarah Jane wakes up and immediately freaks out about what's been happening. In the solar stacks, there's the green creature, so the doctor quickly leaves the room. Sarah Jane notices the creature as Vira opens an empty pod. She asks what they could have done with some guy called Dune. Noah confronts the doctor, who is shutting down the power. He tells the doctor that the Earth is ours. The doctor says something that is trapped in the stack, but gets stunned. The creature then breaks out, and Vira informs Noah of the missing Dune. Noah then goes down to the solar stacks, while Harry and Sarah Jane go off to see what happened to the doctor. The little green t-shirt attacks Noah, who then passes out promptly. Sarah Jane and Harry find the doctor passed out, but he quickly comes around. The doctor realizes he was saying something important, so he rushes down to stop Noah, who's in danger. Noah, meanwhile, is woken up, and the doctor explains how every person has a function. Noah confronts them and heads back into the cryogenic section. Vira is busy waking up more people, and a man called Libri freaks out when seeing Noah. Vira assures him that it's just Noah, their leader, but he says he saw something standing there. He's all right now, and Noah tells him to keep the intruders under guard while he walks off. Noah insists that the revivification must be stopped, and has just started to go a bit crazy. The doctor suggests Noah maybe no longer be Noah, and actually must be stopped. Libri then goes after him, and the doctor asks what the mess is with the missing technician. The doctor finds a membrane in Dune's pod. The membrane is from a hatched seed from that green caterpillar creature. He suspects that the larva ate Dune and absorbed all of his knowledge. That's how it knows about them. Libri holds the gun at Noah, insisting that Noah isn't well. Noah tries to get him to hand the gun over, which he does with some prodding. Libri's then shot and killed, as Noah locks himself in the control room. He then takes out his hand from his pocket, which is now covered in green bubble wrap. The horror. Okay, fine, it's no longer human, but the bubble wrap is such an obvious joke. This leads into part 3, where a recording of the Earth Prime Minister plays congratulating those on Space Station Nerva. The voice tells them they must fix the Earth's surface, and they must repopulate. Noah becomes revolted with his bubble-wrapped hand and starts slamming it on a console. Harry then shows he's sexist when Noah begs for Vira to wake everyone up and get out of here. He realizes that he's been taken over by something called a Wirren, and says that everyone's in great danger. The Wirren takes over and says the Earth shall be theirs. Noah takes over again and says that he's being taken over and she needs to save the human race. The Doctor starts to work out what's been going on, and he says he needs to talk with Noah. He gets Vira to come with him while Harry gets everybody awake. Sarah Jane is told to stay and help Harry while the Doctor rushes off. They come across Noah, who's halfway taken over by the evil bubble wrap, and says he's near to the adult form. The Doctor gets Vira to go back, while Sarah Jane explains to Lysett and Rogan the situation. They both freak her out about this, while the Doctor bursts in and Noah's now just a giant green caterpillar made out of bubble wrap. The Doctor and Harry start to look over the Warren corpse to find weaknesses. Vira then goes to stop the main phase, and the Doctor says that they must wait. They don't have 4 days to do this main phase, but really just a couple of hours. The Doctor's plan is then to kill the Wirren before they can go to the adult stage in the pupal stage, because the Wirren are insects and will have a pupa. Harry examines the lung structure, which can recycle oxygen. The Wirren see they live in space, and they go to a planet for food and oxygen so they can survive. The Doctor has Rogan get some stuff so he can do an experiment. He uses the neural amplifier to revive the impression made. It is similar to an eye retaining the last image it saw. It doesn't work, so the Doctor decides to link into his own cerebral cortex. Vira says that she couldn't permit it. It'll be fine as long as the Doctor is uninterrupted. So he hands Vira a gun in case something were to go wrong, and Lysett switches on, and we see the arc on a screen. In the cryogenics room, the Wirren thing kills Lysett. We say that the Wirren was shot down by the guard, and that it staggered to sabotage the arc and shut down the power when it first arrived. Then it attacked Dune in his pod before sort of laying its egg, which hatched. Rogan and Harry are rushing back when they're attacked by the mutated Noah, who started to look more like a fly. The Wirren nearly gets in while the Doctor wakes up. Luckily, he was able to escape the Wirren's hive mind. Vira then shoots at the Wirren as the Doctor tells them to aim lower. That gets it taken care of, and the door is shut. The Doctor then muses on the Wirren has gone to the effect. The Doctor estimates that there'll be likely 100 Wirren and says they need to kill them all with electricity. Rogan explains they'll have to run cables from the control center, but they're trapped in the room. The Doctor suggests that there might be something Dune actually didn't know about the power system, like how the transmits are actually reversible. So the Doctor makes Rogan go first, and he's taken away on the transmit. Harry follows, but the power cuts before anyone else can go. The Doctor calls Rogan, who says it's in the power's in the secondary stack before everything gets cut. Sarah Jane gets down off the transmit, and the oxygen stops, so the Doctor leaves to confront Noah to turn it back on. The Doctor goes down the dim halls into the power stacks where all the Wirren are sleeping. He goes into the stack when Noah comes up to him, revealing the transformation has been completed. This leads into part 4, where luckily Vira and Sarah Jane are there to shoot at Noah. The Noah Wirren tells Vira to run away or to stay and die. It explains that the Wirren's breeding colonies on Andromeda were destroyed by humans and they need a new habitat. The Doctor suggests moving on to breed, and they don't need to destroy the humans because there are friendly planets that have like cattle that they could use. They want to become an advanced species. Behind them, another Wirren begins to hatch, so they decide to escape the room. They return to Harry and Rogan, who have found a way to turn on the lights. Harry suggests leaving in the TARDIS, but the Doctor says they can't leave because the Wirren will eat the super sleeping humans. Their only chance is high voltage power, but they don't have any. So they might be able to electrify the switch so the Wirren couldn't turn it off again as well. Sarah Jane suggests using the power from the escape pod that they have, but that would need a cable. She suggests she might actually be able to squeeze through the vents with the cable to do it, so problem solved. Vira, Rogan, and Harry and Sarah Jane get the cable set up and get Sarah Jane started down the vent, with a 2-ray radio to guide her. The Doctor starts working on his end while the Wirren Noah comes into his room. Harry and Sarah Jane get into a quick comedy moment while the Doctor hides from the Wirren Noah. Sarah Jane's almost halfway through and is told to be as quiet as she can. Another Wirren wakes up below her and looks in at her through a vent. Meanwhile, the Doctor's ready on his side, and Sarah Jane's getting a bit nervous. She's having a quick nervous breakdown as she gets stuck. The doctor whispers her, but she says she can't move. She begins to panic, and the doctor calls her useless and says she's always lets him down, because she's a woman, and women should be oppressed. This is a great moment because, well, how well it motivates her to get through the vent, and as he helps her outside. He says he's very proud of her, and she realizes, of course, he was just screwing with her to get her through, and they phone to Rogan so that the cable's connected. She gets close to the door and sees the Weirin, which gets shocked when the power turns on. It reports to the others, and the doctor tells Vira that they have company, and should not let any of the power drop. The doctor says that they're planning something and may not actually be safe here. The Weirin grabs Sarah Jane through the vent, which the doctor then shocks. On the other side of the Ark, the Weirin now turns the power on and speaks to Vira. It tells them that they control the Ark, but the doctor says they're at a stalemate. They're offered the chance to leave, but the doctor says that they're beaten. The Weirin Noah threatens to shut down the oxygen, while the doctor pleads with the Weirin Noah's humanity to lead the Weirin into space. Meanwhile, with Harry, Vira, and Rogan, the Weirin start to get in the rocket, so they turn on the power to flush them out. With the doctor and Sarah Jane, the air starts to slowly run out, while outside the Ark, the Weirin are breaking in. The doctor has to cut out the power, and the Vira's group leaves to the escape pod to explode. The doctor and Rogan get the rocket ready for takeoff, and Rogan knocks the doctor out, sacrificing himself to save the others. The Weirin are all destroyed, while Sarah Jane is all distraught. The doctor shows up in the room and says they're all safe with the Weirin dead. He muses that Noah had a bit of humanity left in him, and will confirm this when he blows up the rocket. Vira says she must get her people back to Earth. The doctor informs her the matter transmitter isn't working, and he'll just pop down to check it. Sarah Jane gets him a Coke and insists that she and Harry come along. The doctor eventually agrees, while Vira starts waking everybody up as they disappear, ending the story. Final thoughts? Last time I said that Robot was really a false start with the Fourth Doctor's era when, well, it starts for real in this story. The Ark of Space is an extremely dark story with horrifying implications and a lot of body horror. Well, the horrifying implications are done great, but the body horror isn't isn't very good. I mean, it's just bubble wrap. The adult Weirin is a great prop and used effectively, as it's actually a pretty good puppet. So there's that. The writing from Robert Holmes is also top-notch, with the pacing keeping itself great over a four-part story. It's also a real callback to the Hartnell era, with the first episode being devoted to the exploration of this new environment, while the rest of the story being the plot. That really wouldn't work with many of the premises of this era, but here it works as the Ark at the beginning seems empty. Also because the design work of Roger Murray Leach, especially that main chamber, which is one of the largest sets built thus far, is great, and really the Ark looks really good. The acting in the story is also great, mainly due to the really small cast. Special props should go to Tom Baker and Elizabeth Sladen, who both really start to build up a great chemistry, especially in Part 4 with the vent scenes, which are really, really tense. Harry, on the other hand, doesn't fare as well, as here he's played as the fool most of the time, and really seems like it was supposed to be written for just Tom and Sarah. The direction from newcomer Rodney Bennett is also a mixed bag, with some shots looking great, but others, well, not as great. The Ark gets a bit overlit, which makes the set look a bit fake, and Bennett doesn't seem to do model work very well, masking some of the problems. So all in all, I give Doctor Who, The Ark in Space, a 90%, for being a great with all of its story and writing, but failing in the characterization of Harry Sullivan, and about half of its direction. The story deserves its name as a classic, and should definitely be picked up. It was released on Special Edition DVD in 2013 in all regions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time when we tackle the part of the Ark which has no real impact on the history of Doctor Who. Except, maybe the second appearance of the Sontarans in The Sontaran Experiment.
Please.